Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be comparing a 2022 Ram 1500 Rebel GT to a 2022 Chevy Silverado ZR2. Now I picked out these two particular trucks because the ZR2 obviously is the craziest version of the new Silverado, and then the Rebel GT is the craziest version of the Ram Rebel, and both these trucks are actually very close in terms of their sticker price, so they're as comparable as it gets. Now before getting the comparison, I do want to mention if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into the comparison. So starting under the hood of the ZR2, we have a naturally aspirated 6.2 liter V8 that goes through a 10-speed automatic transmission. Power outputs are 420 horsepower and then 460 pound-feet of torque, with the axle ratio being 3.23 for the ZR2, and fuel economy is going to be a little bit less than what that Rebel gets from that perspective. Now popping over to the Rebel, naturally aspirated 5.7 liter Hemi V8 that's paired to the 8-speed automatic transmission and the e-torque system. Power outputs 395 horsepower, 410 pound-feet of torque, axle ratio 3.92, which is a little bit better for off-road use, obviously. And like I said, a little bit better fuel economy with that e-torque system. And then this is the GT, so it's got the Ram airflow. It's kind of a cool little thing. Apparently it slightly increases power, right, with the truck. Negligible amount that you won't really feel, but you know, it's cool. Anyways, ZR2, 11.2 inches of ground clearance. So that's solid. And then you can see here with the 6.2L badge there. Now this is a black truck, so you can't really see what accent pieces are blacked out and which are just regular body painted accent pieces or regular body painted pieces. So that thing in the center of the hood, that is always blacked out no matter what package you get. Notice you got the flow tie with the red accenting there. And the whole front grille also blacked out. And then you can see ZR2 logo. And then notice with the daytime running light and then the LED headlight, tow hooks there on the front end. Fog lights off to the side, and then skid plate action underneath, and Raptor format where it looks really aggressive and out there. Definitely love the front end appearance on the ZR2. I think it's a great looking truck pretty much from every single angle. Now, moving from that back over to the Rebel, we've got 9.8 inches of ground clearance with a standard Rebel. With air suspension, 10.8 inches of ground clearance. So even at the highest setting with the air suspension, this still has less ground clearance than the ZR2. So that's definitely something to consider if you're an off-road enthusiast. Anyways, you can see you've got the venting on the hood, and this one's in bright blue. Notice here with the daytime running lights, and then you guys can see the fog lights down below. Parking sensors there on the front end, and then got tow hooks there with the skid plates again popping out just like a Raptor. Got the Ram logo in the center, and you know, it's a good looking truck from a front end perspective. Now popping to the side here of the ZR2, 18-inch wheels, and we have 33s, which are definitely nice, beefy, aggressive tires. And I've been told you can fit 35s on the truck pretty easily, so that's a big plus if you want a little bit more tire. There's a quick look at the front suspension, and speaking of more tire, if this had 35s, that would probably bump up the ground clearance to like TRX Raptor levels. Just saying, that would be pretty cool. But this has the shocks from Multimatic. We'll talk about those in a second. Notice the fender flare ZR2 badge. And then here's your full side view. Definitely has a good stance from a side perspective in terms of how it sits. It's lifted a couple inches just like the Trail Boss. But it does sit higher than the Trail Boss because of the tires being just slightly bigger, a little bit more sidewall. But leaf springs in the back. And then again, we've got the DSSV shocks from Multimatic. Basically, it performs similar to like the shocks on the Raptor. They get there a different way because it's like a 3-chamber system. And then also the high ground clearance exhaust tip. But all you need to know is the shocks are amazing on the ZR2. Really advanced technology and dampens very, very well. Very, very well. But pop them over to the Rebel, 18-inch wheels again. And then you can see here with the tires, not nearly as aggressive, right? I think they're technically like 32s or something on the Rebels. So they're just a little bit smaller than what the ZR2 has, but you know, not a bad setup by any means. And you can see it has the same off-roader type appearance where you've got the silver on the outside and then the black there in the center, and then notice the canister there for the air suspension. And you can also see here with the fender flare how that pops out right there, and then you got the Ram logo, and then notice that matches the mirror in terms of the coloration. And then look at the door handles, how those are body colored, got the GT badge there at the back. And then you can see here with the wheel house liners, you can't really see the suspension in the back end. Also, the Rebel does come with monotube off-road shocks. That's just any Rebel that you get. Here's a key fob for the ZR2, so notice here with the tailgate drop down, remote start, and then you see the Chevy logo there on the back. Now, this ZR2 has the tailgate drop down, but doesn't have the tailgate raise function, which you can get on the ZR2, but it's an optional feature. LED bed lights here in the back. Got a full power outlet as well, and then you can see there with the cargo light up top, and then ZR2 logo stamped there in the bed. And you know, it's a full-size truck, so it's practical from a bed perspective. And then going over the rest of the rear, you can see here with the taillights, normal Silverado taillights. You can see Chevrolet logo stamped in the bed, the ZR2 logo Silverado, then the body painted bumper, and then notice you got the bumper steps as well. And you know, it's again, good looking truck from a rear end perspective. Now with the Rebel, difference on the key fob is you've got the tailgate drop down as well as the remote start and the air suspension drop down. So again, having air suspension, you're going to have that function added to the truck, and that basically just lowers it so that it makes entry and exit a little bit easier with the truck. That's why they set it on the key fob. And then notice there with the tailgate drop down, you can see that you know, slow lowers, and we've got protection from the factory, just like the ZR2 LED lights in the bed as well. And you can also see here, this one's got a tonneau cover from the factory, which is a nice option if you want to protect stuff in the bed. And then finishing things up here with the rest of the rear. First off, you guys can see here with the LED lights. With the Rebel, I think the rear end of the Rebel looks a little bit nicer than the ZR2 from an aesthetic perspective, just with how Ram's kind of shaped the sheet metal. And then quick look at the bumper. Notice with the exhaust tips that come with the GT package, you also have parking sensors down there. And you guys heard that exhaust at the beginning of the video. Definitely a nice aggressive tone. And yeah, that's everything for the rear of the truck. And then popping into the ZR2. So notice here at the door panel, you got all the padding, and then you see the contrast with the different colors. Got the neon stitching that is specific to the ZR2. And then notice the new door handle. And then this does have the Bose sound system. Then here are the seats. So Chevy basically wanted to make these seats really easy to clean off. So that's why they made them the color they are, so they don't show as much stuff. And then also just they're easy to wipe down, so that's another benefit. Got cup holders here, and then you can see with the heated seats, vents in the back, storage space, and of course got our cup holder armrest. And you know, being Chevy's full-size cab, it's got plenty of space there for rear passengers. And then popping to the back of the Rebel, you can see the door panel definitely has more of a luxury appearance, and that's kind of a theme that you'll see throughout the Rebel. This basically has the base TRX interior is what they give to the GT Rebels, which is kind of interesting. But you can see here with the seats again, with the GT package you get these nice leather seats, which look cool. Wouldn't be as easy to clean off though after some off-road use, but they look cool and they're comfortable. They are very comfortable. And you can go from that to the cup holder situation, and then notice heated seats there, and then you got the USB's full power outlet. And then also, so this one doesn't have the reclining seat function, but under seat storage. And of course we have the ice buckets that also come with the Ram trucks, another cool feature. And going from that back over to the front of the ZR2. First off, you guys can see here at the door panel again with the material use, and then you got that neon stitching. Memory seats. Just a quick look, the mirrors do have blind spot monitoring. All of your window controls, front ones are automatic. And then mirrors, which power fold in. Another speaker for that Bose sound system. And then here's a quick look at the seats again. Easy to clean off. Have that cool coloration on them with the different contrast of grays, right? Pedal layout down below. Got our light controls here. drive mode select and drive line select as 4-wheel auto as well as 4-wheel high. And then it has the trailer tow mode. And then you got controls for the heads-up display. Steering wheel is power adjustable. And let's pop back over to the Rebel. Popping to the interior with the Rebel. You can see here from a door panel perspective, again, continues that theme of like the luxury appearance. And then this one has these smaller mirrors. Got all of your window controls automatic. Mirrors do power folding, got memory seats. And then also here's the front seats. Again, you got the GT logo and then have the more aggressive appearance with these seats, which I think look great from an aesthetic perspective. And then you got your power adjustments there on the side of the seat. Pedal layout down below, which also is upgraded for the GT package. And you've got your pedal adjustment, parking brake, and then light controls. And then you'll notice that the steering wheel is manually adjustable. So that's a big difference there with the Ram. Got the cool animation here when you pop into the ZR2. Definitely interesting with how that appears. And that's just when you get into the truck, but you can just start it up like normal. You don't have to wait for that long animation. This is just what it does with normal startup, as you can see there. But here's the steering wheel. So you got nice padding here on the steering wheel, and then you can see the stitching there in the center portion, and then controls there for the center stack, voice command, phone controls. Plastic paddle shifters, which I think is a little bit of a downside with the ZR2. And then you got your cruise control with your heated steering wheel button. Turn signal, windshield wiper stock. But overall, it's a pretty decent looking steering wheel. Heads-up display also with the ZR2, so that's another big plus. And then here is the center gauge cluster, so a full digital gauge cluster. Definitely looks more modern, right, and looks cool. So it's a big plus with it. There's a few different menus you can scroll through to get different bits of info on the truck itself. And then aside from that, we do have some different drive modes. So you've got your normal off-road, and then you have your terrain, which the terrain mode is specific for the ZR2, and it lets you know what you have to do to get into that drive mode to like fully engage it. So it tells you what to change with the drive line, and then you got your tow haul mode, which gives you a little animation, and overall it's a pretty cool setup there for the ZR2. Now, as for the infotainment system, pretty straightforward, right? So notice with the camera system, really high resolution and tons of different camera views. So that's going to help out from an off-road perspective, right? It's going to make it so that you're going to be able to see everything. So you can basically spot yourself on, not every single obstacle, but a lot of obstacles. And then you've got basically shortcut bar on the side of the infotainment system, and then you have like that little auxiliary screen. Then you have like the main screen right there in the center, and response time's great. And I think that Chevy did a good job with the infotainment system, other than like the fact that it doesn't look like super integrated there into the dash. Anyways, you got your lane departure, parking sensors, auto stop start, turn that on or off, and then the tailgate drop down, and then hazard lights, stability control, hill descent control, and then you've got the front locker and then front and rear locker at the same time. So that's a big thing with the ZR2, is that you can not only lock the rear end, you can also lock the front end as well. So that adds to the off-road capability. And you can see all the trim there, and then also on the dash. Definitely looks a lot nicer than what they had with previous Silverados. Trailer brake control, and then dual zone climate. And you can see heated cooled seats as well. And then notice the extra storage space right there. You got the shifter for the 10-speed automatic. And it's a nice console shifter, so it definitely feels like you're doing something substantial when you shift into gear. A couple cup holders, and then there's the center console with that neon stitching. Wireless phone charger. Storage space overall is pretty decent. And then you can see here with the dual glove box setup. It's interesting when that thing kind of like pops up. And the padding there on the outside of the glove box itself. Then we do have a sunroof here at the top. Got the controls for the power sliding window. And then this has the camera mirror system, which is another cool little feature. Now here's a window sticker on the ZR2. And I've been told since I filmed this video, apparently they raised the base price on the ZR2, which is kind of strange. But you can see this one after options is, almost $71,000. So, pretty interesting. Popping over into the Rebel. Got a cool little animation with the screen there. Now, going over the steering wheel, you can see a nice trim on the steering wheel itself. And then notice we've got radio controls there on the back of the steering wheel, and you can see the contrasted stitching as well. Cruise control, nice paddle shifters. They're just taken out of the TRX, so definitely win with the paddle shifter game with the Ram over the Chevy, instead of having like, you know, just plastic paddle shifters. Of course, turn signal, windshield wiper stock. What else would you expect? Now here's a gauge cluster, so you can see analog gauges on either side, and then you got that screen there in the center. So just a completely different setup, right? Full digital makes it feel more modern, whereas this with the half analog, half, you know, digital screen kind of has that more, you know, old school type feel. But information that you can see on the screen is all the same with the Rebel. So it's like, again, you get to the same place just with a little bit of a different formatting, basically, with the Rebel. And you can see the fuel economy I was getting so far, which isn't with the EPA rating, but I definitely have a little bit of a lead foot, so that's something to, I guess, consider. Got a 12 volt there at the top, and then Harman Kardon sound system. And then you guys can see here with the dash, definitely looks a lot more on the luxury side of things since everything's covered with that leather. And then we've got the 12-inch display, which looks like it's more integrated into the dash. You've got climate controls on either side, radio controls as well. And then you got like our parking sensor controls in the bottom, tow haul, stability control, air suspension to raise or lower the suspension of the truck. And then also what you'll notice is it just beeps and lets you know that it's like raising. Trailer brake controls right next to that as well. And then as for the 12-inch display, first off, you guys can see the camera system. It's just as good from a resolution perspective, but this doesn't have a 360 camera system added to it. With this specific truck, you can get a 360 camera system, but also the camera view doesn't take up as much of the screen, which sounds good, but then at the same time, right, you don't get as big of a camera view. So I don't know. Definitely think that Chevy does a better job from a camera perspective so far. As for the rest of the screen, response time's great. It's got the shortcut bar there at the bottom. You have the main screen there, and you can do split screen function with some of the stuff. And then notice heated cooled seats with the GT package, heated steering wheel, dual zone climate. So from a luxury perspective, right, with the seats and everything, it looks like we're, you know, stacking up to be pretty even with both of the trucks so far. And also they changed the screen for 22, so it has this like a little bit of a different appearance compared to the 21 screen. You can see auto stops right there, and then the driveline select. Again, 4-wheel auto as well as 4-wheel high, held descent control, and then axle lock. That's just for the rear. So when you have a rear locker with this truck, and then you can see the extra storage space here at the USBs and wireless phone charger. And then of course we got our console shifter as part of the GT package. So again, it feels like you're doing something substantial when you shift into gear. A couple cup holders as well. And again, that shifter replaces the dial shifter that's in most of the Rams, or in a regular Ram Rebel, frankly. And you can see the trim that covers those cup holders. And there's a quick look at the center console setup. You can't move the center console when you get the GT package with the shifter, so that is a downside. So you don't get as much storage space. And then there's the dual glove box setup. And tons of papers in there, so it doesn't want to close. Got the Rebel logo there on the glove box as well. And then you can see here camera mirror, just like the Silverado. So you got that practicality. Got a power setting window, and then a full panoramic sunroof. So that's a big plus for the Rebel, is you can get a panoramic sunroof. Whereas the Silverado just has the smaller sunroof. Universal garage door openers. And here's a window sticker. So this is going to be pretty interesting for you guys to see. You can see the base price of it is lower than the base price of the ZR2. The base price of the ZR2 is like $65,000. But there's a lot more options to add to the Rebel. That is for sure, including the GT package. And that's the thing that Ram does, is Ram's just like, you know what? We're just going to make the truck as base as possible to start off with, and we are going to give you the option to make everything an option. So whatever you want to add, you can add it. And so you can see with all the packages this has, $71,995 for the total price. So it's technically more expensive than the ZR2, which is pretty crazy to think about from a sticker price perspective. But anyways, let's sum things up with this comparison. So from a looks perspective, I think the ZR2 looks better from the front end, but I think the Rebel looks better from the back end. With the interiors, you have two different style things. With the Rebel, it's got like a luxury appearance, and then with the ZR2, it's got an off-road appearance that is basically, you know, all about making it easy to clean. So it depends on what style you like a little bit more. And then from, you know, a UI perspective, both have great infotainment systems. ZR2 has a better camera than what the Rebel has. And then, gauge cluster, that's just going to depend on what you like. And then sunroof, Rebel can get a bigger sunroof, so that's a plus for the Rebel. And then if we go into the engine performance and all that, ZR2 does have a more monstrous engine, but the Rebel has a better axle ratio and is supposed to be able to get better fuel economy, so you've got that going for it. And then in terms of the tire setup, the ZR2 does have better tires than the Rebel, but they're both great tire setups. And then from a suspension standpoint, it's kind of mixed. So I'd rather have coil suspension or air suspension like what the Rebel has, especially coil suspension. That's kind of my preferred suspension setup, whereas the ZR2 has leaf springs, so it's like, that's going against the ZR2, but the ZR2 has much better shocks, and it has more ground clearance, even with the air suspension in the highest setting. So, and it also has the front locker as well as the rear locker, that the Rebel only has rear lockers. So the ZR2 is kind of stacked up to be more capable off-road, whereas the Rebel has off-road capability, but then has some like luxury on-road features. It's not like the ZR2 is not luxurious on-road. It still has heated, cooled seats. It still has like a lot of luxury features. But the way that I look at this is the ZR2 is more off-road focused, and so if you're an off-roader, ZR2. The Rebel is basically, more tuned towards the luxury side slightly, and so it's like if you want a more of a luxury look from an interior perspective and maybe feel, and you want to do a little bit of off-roading, then the Rebel will do that. So just depends on which route you want to go.